Tonight, Rolling with the Beard, we're reviewing the A.R.T project. This is the A.R.T project. This is a cooperative board game for 1 to 6 players. The goal of the players is to rescue 7 pieces of art from the white gloves, or those would be the little Michael Jackson gloves all over the board. And the game actually comes with 3 double-sided boards. Play is quite simple. During the first phase, known as the mission phase, each player will draw 2 cards. Players then will kind of vaguely discuss on what exactly they're trying to accomplish and maybe what materials they will need. At the beginning of the game, inside their groovy van here, the team will start with 3 gasolines, 3 pew-pews, and 3 walkie-talkies. The gasoline obviously is used to move about the board. The pew-pews are for fighting the white gloves. The reason you want to fight the white gloves, not only do they look like Michael Jackson gloves, but you also want to fight them because when these pieces of art do come out on the board and you do get to a location that has the art and you fall down, you can't take this piece of art if there are still white gloves there. So you'll have to battle them out and with the help of pistols, kill them and remove them from the board, and then when you're at a location with art that is not protected by the white gloves, you can then secure it, getting you 1 step closer to victory. So players will choose one of the 2 cards that they drew during the mission phase, and they will play it and discard the other one. The top of each card has a cost. This card cost a pew-pew. So I would remove a pew-pew from our groovy van, and then this is showing what the game is doing or what the white gloves are doing. In this case, you put a white glove on each matching symbol location on the board. So here I have to add 2 gloves to the library, or I'm not really sure what that's supposed to be. Anyways, so they go to the book location. So I would add 2 gloves there. That kind of stinks because at the end of a round, if there's ever 5 or more white gloves on a location, that location is closed, receives one of these tokens, and you can no longer go there, which can be a major pain in the rear when you're trying to secure these stolen pieces of art. And underneath that is what we would gain from playing this card. In this case, we would get a walkie-talkie and 2 gasolines. And as I mentioned before, the gasoline is handy because you need the gasoline to move about the board, and the walkie-talkies, when you're fighting the white gloves, the walkie-talkies, you can turn in different amounts throughout the game to gain special agents, and those are additional dice that you can roll when combating the white gloves. And once players have resolved the card that they just played, they will add it here to the side of the board, and the reason that you do that is once you have acquired 3 matching symbols on the side of the board, those 3 cards are discarded and a piece of art will show up at that matching location, and that's how the art comes out on the board. So it is vital to your victory to play cards with matching symbols on them. The next phase is the movement phase, where players can then spend gasoline to move to an adjacent location on the map, assuming that the said location hasn't been closed down due to an abundance of white gloves there. And the next phase is the fight phase, my favorite phase because I love chucking dice and I love games with dice. So in the fight phase, a player will decide to combat some of the white gloves at a location that they're at. They will roll their colored die along with maybe any special agents that the table has collectively gotten throughout the game. And when you do get these special agents, you get to keep them and they're yours for the rest of the game. So anytime you fight, you get to roll them. So if, for instance, I'm fighting here, I roll these 2 dice, and let's see, I got a 6 and a 2. Now, the white glove strength is equal to the number of white gloves on that space. Their level, currently they're at a level 6, so they only have a value of 8, so I did tie. So anytime you meet or exceed their value, you are victorious and all the white gloves get kicked out of the location, which is totally dope. Now, had I rolled something less, say I rolled a 6 and a 1, only having 7, I possibly could have spent one of these pew-pews to add 2 to my die roll. Or another option is you can, those cards that you're collecting here on the side, you could discard one of them to get a reroll for each symbol that is on the card. So maybe I would use this to reroll both my dice. As you recover some of these art pieces, they start going here on the board, raising the white glove's strength level. So you gotta kind of figure maybe you should fight something now before they're too strong and then go and rescue that piece of art. So as you can see, the game does ramp up the more you collect of these art projects. And once your team has rescued all the pieces of art, you win. But it's also possible that you were fighting these guys, and anytime you lose a fight, you also lose a heart. And one of the losing conditions is if one of the players at the table has lost all their hearts. I failed to mention that hearts can replace any of the needed resources, but it's kind of dangerous to do so because you're getting one step closer to death and losing. There's also another lose condition. At the beginning of the game during setup, you count out 12 cards and then put this little chipboard timer guy here at the bottom of the deck, and that acts as a timer as well. So when the players get to that, if that's the last round, and if you haven't secured that last piece of art, you've also lost. And another thing, if you ever run out of these white gloves to put on there, you also lose the game. Oh, I failed to mention also, if you go to close down a location and there's no more of these little closed location tiles, you've also lost it. So there's a long ways to lose the game. And I know what you're thinking, Beard, why does that board look so thick? I'm glad you asked. That's because the game comes with not 1, not 2, not 3, nor 4, 5, nay, 6 different maps, each of which has special rules for them. For instance, the Nile here. When you play this one, you can move up the board for free, but then when you want to move down, then you have to pay a gasoline. So each board has a neat little additional rule to it, and that's why you start with the Japanese board, because it's the most vanilla of them all. So that is the A.R.T. project, our project. Not really sure what it's supposed to be. Anywho, this is probably, if not my favorite co-op games, it's definitely one of my favorite co-op games. It is just such a great game. It's really pretty to look at too. The art by Vincent Dutray is just off the hook, and one of the characters that you can play as is apparently Tropical Santa, which is pretty dope. That's maybe a small complaint, not even a complaint, I feel like maybe a missed opportunity, is maybe they could have had like a individual player powers or something for each character, but it doesn't really matter because the rest of the game shines so bright, you know. It's definitely one of my favorite co-ops. Speaking of ops, the op has been coming out with just some fantastic games, and this one is no exception. It is a wonderful game. It's very easy to teach. The rulebook is nice and clear. Also, the player aid that comes with it is great. However, there's only one. Kind of would have been nice to maybe have one for each player, but it's a nice big one for, you know, if a player's teaching the game, and, you know, they can just kind of, other players can look at that and run through, which that's the thing, really, there's almost no teach to this game. If one player is familiar with it, you can just sit down with a group of people and be like, draw 2 cards, we're trying to, you know, secure these packages. If you play 3, you know, you can just kind of run through the rules as you're playing it. It's a really simple teach, and there's almost no downtime. And I found that the gameplay is less prone to one particular player quarterbacking the whole thing, which is really good. And I think it's because, you know, you draw 2 cards and you kind of keep them hidden, you know, but other players can see on the backside like what symbols that you can play, you know, so you can kind of coordinate that way. But that is a big plus, and that's really my downside to co-op games, is when they become this thing where everybody's just kind of like watching one person play a solo game. But this game did not feel that way, and that's why it is so high on my list of co-op games. And there's very little downtime between turns, because you really don't even have like a set turn order. Just players can, you know, just play cards when they want to play them. And there's little to no admin in this game, or upkeep. There's not really a set like upkeep phase, because, you know, you just play a card and then it tells you where you have to add more white gloves. Yes, at the end of a round, you need to just ensure that, or check that there's no location that has 5 white gloves or more. But other than that, it's pretty smooth sailing for the most part. The normal difficulty level is like right at that cusp of like so many games, oh no, we're gonna lose, and then you just barely squeak out a win at the end, which is perfect. However, you can adjust the difficulty if you see fit, but with all the different boards and each board having slightly different rules, in addition to the base game rules, it adds plenty of variety to the game. The pieces are nice, thick, chunky wooden pieces, and the card quality, it's okay. They're nice cards. They shuffle well. Just everything about the game. The production is great. The art's great. It is a fantastic game. Highly recommended. Definitely staying in the Beards collection. And if you found this episode entertaining or informative, please consider clicking that subscribe button and that notification bell, and leave a comment down below on what game you think I should cover next. Thanks for watching another episode of Rolling with the Beard.